Penix. I think we both liked him out of college. He had a ton of starts, a lot of pass. I mean, he led the nation in pass attempts at Washington. It was a pro-style offense. What have you seen so far on tape on Michael Penix?
I think he's been solid. I think he's a pocket player for the most part. He's poised. He's composed. I thought in the last game he missed a few that we would expect him to hit, and he's going to have to make those. He can't miss because of the style of quarterback he is, which is essentially a pure pocket passer. He can't miss routine throws. But I think that he's calm, he's composed, he stays with the game. It doesn't overwhelm him based on the given situations in the game. I thought in the first game, they did a much better job of mixing the run and the pass elements. I thought this past week they didn't do it as well because they're a foundational outside zone run team with Bijan Robinson, who, by the way, is absolutely terrific. And I thought the first week he played, they did a great job of using that to get to their play action element. They didn't do that quite as much the second game he played, and I don't think they looked as comfortable.
Yeah. So a few things about this. Yeah, that is the one thing that stood out to me was Michael Penix Jr. really giving off the vibe that he is a pure pocket passer. Like that is clearly where his game is going to kind of go off of. And I think when you are that type of quarterback in the beginning of your career, it's a little bit harder. It's a little bit harder because you to a degree you have one less tool in the toolbox. And so now you really are reliant on your comfortability with the game, the speed of the game, your ability to read defenses, go through your progressions, the players around you. You're just slightly more limited. And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative because I'm on the record saying right now that like Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions is exactly what the Detroit Lions need. And, a Jaden Daniels who could technically has an extra tool in the toolbox in terms of his mobility and his escapability. He would not enhance the Lions, at least where Jaden Daniels is right now in his own, experience level. So I'm not one of those people that says like, oh, you have to be mobile. Otherwise, what are you doing here? Because I think you can become a very special quarterback and be an elite playmaker from the pocket. But like Greg Cosell was saying, like you can't miss throws, right? Like you have to be, way closer to perfect because you can't. That's where you're going to excel. That's where you're going to be able to elevate not only yourself but the team and the offense as a whole. But I was super impressed with Penix, and I think this game was very racy, but I think he stayed completely composed. And this was there was a lot at stake here, and it was intense moments, and I think he passed with flying colors. I mean, again, he made some beautiful, like really high level of difficulty, big time throws. And he's doing that in his second game. So when Greg Cosell is like saying, oh, he missed some throws, I get it because he's just kind of like, looking at it through a very neutral, robotic lens, which I 100% appreciate. But I'm definitely being like, this is his second game. And his second game was better. His first two games are better than Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams. Like he's better than every other rookie quarterback. Their first two games, that is. And so I don't care who you're playing because those quarterbacks played some bad teams as well earlier on in the season. So, I think that means something, and I think that shows his maturity and shows that he's been putting in the work, because I understand it's later in the season and he's kind of got to sit and kind of, observe and learn and grow from behind the scenes. But the fact that he's kind of been thrown into this situation, I think he's passed with flying colors so far, and I think he'll continue to get better. I think anytime you're looking at left-handed quarterbacks, it's always a little bit weird because you're the way how your brain works in your mind, like it automatically looks different. I mean, I'm a lefty, but like it just automatically looks weird because you see righty again and again and again. I mean, your mind, all the games that we've watched over these years, we've just seen righty quarterback, right-handed quarterback after right-handed quarterback, and it's just snap after snap after snap after snap. And so anytime you throw in now a quarterback who's throwing left-handed, like it just your brain almost is kind of like something's wrong. something's weird here. Something's not right. And you have to kind of get past that. Like, it is actually a thing that, like, you have to kind of, like, look past, because it automatically feels different. And different, the way when our mind sees something different, we automatically assume inferior, right? Like, it's just how the mind works. And so it is a tricky situation. So it is something that you kind of have to work to kind of, like, not let the mind play those tricks on you. But yeah, I think that the Falcons are in a really decent position with Penix, and I think he showed his maturity, he showed his experience, he showed his composure. There was just so many times that he could have really messed things up, and I don't think he did. Again, he obviously didn't play perfect ball. So again, I'm not going to try to pretend like he just played unbelievable and you just put the league on notice. Like, I'm not saying that either, but I think it's also going to take a second or two for the Falcons to be able to figure out how they want to be able to use Penix's strengths and have now everyone else also be able to build off of that, like Robinson, right? Like how can they start to make this relationship more complementary and synergistic? Because I don't think that's what we've seen just yet. According to Cosell, he thinks he saw it more with the Giants and less so versus the Commanders. And again, to me, that's like an offensive coordinator who's trying to figure it out, okay, how do all these pieces fit together? I've seen it in one game, I've seen it in some practices, but it's like, it takes time. It takes time to figure out how do we feed these off of each other. We saw that even just with Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. Again, like, established quarterbacks, established players, an established O-line, an established coordinator. Same thing even with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Like, it takes time to figure out, how do we make these pieces fit together? How do we know how to get everyone involved, not just Penix, but everyone involved, most comfortable? And it's not just reps. Reps, of course, matters. That helps more with kind of like the instincts and the intuition. But in terms of, like, how do we maximize this offense? How do we, again, be complementary and synergistically so we can really feed off each other? That just takes time. And more than anything, it just takes intelligence. It takes the ability for someone to figure out, what can I do here? How can I kind of pull all these pieces together to kind of get to the goal that we're trying to get? And unfortunately, that's just the problem with the limited time that we have here, right? It's going to be 3 total games, and it's like, and it's frustrating. It is definitely frustrating. So a bunch of Atlanta Falcons fans have said this in a couple of my previous Falcons videos, where they're just like, I'm sick of always having to wait to next year. And I totally feel that. It's so frustrating that you have to just keep saying, well, next year will be different. Next year, just look, just wait and see. And it's frustrating. I feel for fan bases that cheer for teams, or, that live in the area, whatever it may be, where their teams are just not aggressive enough to, like, really get the job done. But if it is any consolation, first off, there is still the chance that they can make the playoffs. There still is a chance. It's definitely, for the most part, completely out of their control, unless you think you're going to drop to the Panthers. But it does feel like next year, and having these few games that Penix is now playing at the end, I think does some really great things, because it will give them plenty to work with, plenty to build off of into this off season, going into, obviously, the next season. And I think with Penix, considering how successful that I personally feel he has been within these first 2 games, and ideally 3 games, it should give you a ton of optimism. My fear with Penix starting this late in the season was if he kind of has a couple bad games, and again, is a rookie quarterback. Like we saw Jaden and Bo Nix and whatnot. Like, if they only got those first 3 games, like, I'm not so sure we'd have as much optimism and excitement and confidence in being like, okay, what type of players do we need? How do we build off of this? What do we work on? What type of game plans are we going to try to figure out going into all of this? Like, so I do think that this has been valuable, even if it hasn't been exactly how you wanted this season to unfold, which, again, I can totally appreciate. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Penix? How do you think he's been in these first couple of games? Are you optimistic about the future? Do you have any concerns about him? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.